everyone, it's Megan Marie from woodyandmarie.com, and today we're talking about how to travel when you have IBS or when you're on a low FODMAP diet or both. So grab a cup of tea. I have my decaf green tea, and let's talk about traveling. Now that people are starting to travel again after COVID, it's a really good time to revisit your process for getting ready for travel when you have a chronic issue like irritable bowel syndrome or IBS. And especially if you have to abide by a specific type of diet to avoid triggering IBS symptoms. So those of us on a low FODMAP diet, this is going to be crucial. Plan out your vacation. Plan ahead. You're always planning ahead when you're on this kind of diet because things can become uncomfortable very fast. So my first bit of advice is, as soon as you know where you're going and you kind of have an idea of your itinerary or the hotel or Airbnb that you're going to be staying in, the first thing that I do is start looking at restaurants in the area. And I will create a folder in my browser and just start bookmarking all the restaurants that I can eat at. And typically my process for vetting restaurants to make sure that they are going to be safe for me to eat at, and it's going to be a little limiting, but what I typically do is look for a gluten-free menu. If it has vegan options too, that's even better. And then you can kind of modify your way to something that is probably not going to trigger symptoms. You can even call some of those places ahead of time and ask about certain ingredients and see if there's something on the menu that you don't quite understand, or especially if someone else is picking the restaurant for you. Sometimes you're going on vacation with other people that are kind of dictating the itinerary, and they may pick a restaurant that you can't eat at or you're not sure if you can eat at. And so calling ahead of time and asking a lot of the questions that you would normally ask when you get to the restaurant. If you're going to be with a big group, it's a really busy night, it's kind of hard to get those questions answered because you're basically sending the server back to the kitchen to ask the manager or the chef, what's in X, Y, and Z? Can we, modify or accommodate certain things? And typically that's going to be a little difficult to get questions answered. If you do call a restaurant, please, please, please call when it's not during lunch rush or during dinner rush, because you're also not going to get your questions answered then. Call when someone's going to be available to answer your questions and have that time to actually answer your questions well. And figuring out what you're going to eat is probably the biggest thing, because you're going to be reliant on your diet from triggering symptoms throughout your trip. And so the first thing is looking at restaurants. Another thing that you want to be prepared for is if someone is picking a restaurant, go ahead and bring snacks that you can just pack in a bag really quick and put in your purse and take with you to a restaurant or an outing. If there's a cookout that's happening, there may be things that you can't eat. And if there's a restaurant, or I recently attended a family reunion and my grandfather wanted everything to be such a surprise. He didn't tell us what the menu was, and he wouldn't even tell me. And I was like, I'm sworn to secrecy, I won't tell anyone, I promise. And he was like, no, you all have big mouths, you'll tell each other, I know you will. So he was such a good secret keeper, and so I literally had no idea, and I was asking him questions about gluten, not even know if he knew what gluten was. It's hard to kind of explain what you can and cannot eat on a low FODMAP diet because it's more than just gluten-free or vegan or dairy-free or whatever. There are different measurements of things you can and cannot have. Some stuff comes with special sauces already on it. He assured me that there would be things I could eat. I was actually able to eat some things there, and I was super surprised. I packed so many snacks. So that's the other thing. If you can't travel with snacks, the other thing that I typically do is look for a grocery store nearby. So as soon as I know that I'm gonna be going out of town, I want to know where the nearest grocery store is and go ahead and start planning what kinds of snacks and food I want to like have with me. And that brings up another really good point, is that if you're staying at a hotel or an Airbnb, I like to find a place that has a kitchen, or at least, at the very least, a kitchenette, a microwave, and a refrigerator. So I can keep things like fresh fruit, or I can get leftovers from a restaurant and I can reheat them. So if I can't cook and there's a day where I just feel like I'm not going to be able to eat out, then that's fine. I can reheat food that I ate from the night before. But I love being able to stay at an Airbnb because you get a full kitchen and a full fridge, and I can basically treat that as my house. Make sure though that you're gonna have enough stuff to be able to like meal prep if you need to do that, like storage containers. Not every Airbnb has a lot of that stuff. They typically have like the supplies that you need to cook things, but they don't always have like all the spices and things like that. So just think ahead, you know, just because there's a kitchen there doesn't mean it's gonna have everything that you have in your kitchen. And so think about some of the things that you would typically want to cook with. So a great example is you might want to be able to have like garlic infused oil, which is very expensive, and you might not want to go and buy that, a brand new thing of oil, when you're on vacation. So if you can like pack a small container of garlic infused oil, then you'll have that with you for when you're cooking. One thing to remember is to be flexible, because you don't want to work yourself up and think that you're gonna get sick and you have to have everything that you would normally have at your house. Like, no, that's gonna stress you out so much. So that's another tip, is to do what you need to feel prepared so you don't stress out and you're not trying to figure out what to eat on the fly. That's never a good idea. And you can't just run out and get something fast all the time. So it's good to prepare, but don't over prepare to the point that you're not able to be flexible and you stress yourself out that way, because we all know that one of the biggest triggers for IBS is stress. So we don't want that to happen. Traveling is already stressful enough, so prepare enough, but not too much. Because you're never going to be able to prepare for every scenario. And sometimes you gotta be flexible, let it go, it's not the end of the world. Another thing I want to talk about is your food options when you're actually in the process of traveling to your destination, whether that is going to be by car, by train, or by plane. I drove down to the family reunion. It was like a 5-hour drive. And I knew that if I left at a certain time, about halfway through the trip, I would be hungry because it would be lunchtime. And I didn't just want to eat snacks. I knew I was going to be hungry and want a meal. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm driving by myself. I don't want to stop at a restaurant because it's going to take forever. And I really just want to get there. I don't want to take all day to drive. And it was supposed to rain, and I didn't want to get caught in the rainstorm. And I was just like, what, how am I going to work this out? And I remembered that there are some fast food options. So I did a video on Culver's, and I also had posted some information about options at Chick-fil-A. And there's also places like Red Robin that are kind of, they're not technically fast food, but it's fast enough, and they have gluten-free buns for their burgers. And so these are definitely some options that you can look into. And I ended up being able to just swing by Chick-fil-A. Their grilled chicken is marinated in garlic, so if you can't tolerate garlic, probably not an option for you. But I can tolerate garlic, so I was able to go and eat there, which was so nice. If you're traveling by car and there's not going to be something nearby that you can just eat really quickly, maybe you can pack a lunch and eat it in the car or at a rest stop. So that's another option. If you're traveling by train, and we traveled by train a few years ago, and it was the first time ever, it was on my bucket list, and I was so excited to travel. But I didn't think about the food options, and I'm not sure if they do special food options or not. And I know a lot of times, like during COVID, they won't do some of those things. So it might be good to call and ask ahead of time, because they do provide meals on a train. But I think it was like sandwiches, like cold cuts kind of sandwiches with chips. So I could eat the chips, but I couldn't eat the sandwich. We actually, on the way back, we took a train from Florida all the way back up here to North Carolina, and it was an overnight trip, and I couldn't eat anything. And so what I ended up doing is bringing peanut butter and jelly and bread and my own knife, and I made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on the train, which is a little silly, but you know what? It worked, and it's what I needed in a pinch. Think about traveling on a plane. When you're at the airport, you can get food there, and you can, take snacks with you as well. So I think there are definitely some options like while you're traveling, but I always try to get the timing just right. So if I can get somewhere at lunchtime or at dinner time, then that's preferred. So I'm not traveling during those eating times, and I am less likely to try to scramble to find something to eat. And think about some of these bigger destinations. Disney is a really great example. When we were preparing to go, I was a little worried. I knew that when you go into the park, it's a lot to leave the park and go all the way back to the hotel. And we were with family, and they had an itinerary that we were kind of all following, and I just knew that we were going to be at the park all day, and I thought about packing a lunch, but I did some research, and there are so many blogs out there. And Disney is super accommodating too. They actually have some gluten-free options. Some things that you should remember to pack are your med bag. I have this written on the website on woodyandmarie.com. If you do have a flare-up, it's really great to have a med bag packed. Now, I know typically when you go on vacation, you probably pack a first aid kit, and it has Band-Aids and Neosporin and Tylenol, and that's all great, but don't forget some anti-nausea medication, or you might need even some stool softeners or heartburn medication, or Tums. And just think about some of those things that you might need. I mean, you can always get it at the store if you need to, but if you're not feeling well and you're in a place where you can't just run to the store and grab those things, or you don't want to spend all that money buying all these things again, it would be good to go ahead and have a med bag packed with all those things. Another thing that I would suggest when you're packing clothes, make sure you pack some loose fitting clothes just in case you do have a flare up and your stomach isn't feeling great, and maybe you're bloating, and some of the clothes that you packed maybe aren't going to be super comfortable. And so I always have a couple of outfits, some big t-shirts, or something like this that's big and flowy that I can just wrap up in. And I also love to pack some green tea because it's calming and it's good for digestion. So just think about some of the things that you feel like you can't live without, the things that help you get through a flare-up when you do have one, and make sure to just pack yourself a little self-care bag just in case, and it'll at least give you peace of mind even if you don't have to use it. Hopefully these tips help you prepare for your next trip. Hopefully you are able to take a trip soon, and that we can all kind of get back into the swing of things. I just want to hear from you guys. What kind of tips and tricks do you use when traveling? Have you used any of the tips that I talked about in this video? Is there anything else that you would recommend? It would be really great to compile a list of all of these things and put them in a blog post. So it'll be a really good reminder for me. I know sometimes I even reference my own blog because I can't remember if it's been a while since I've traveled, like, oh crap, what do I need to pack? And just being able to like pull up a blog post and read through a list is super helpful. So help me fill that out, guys. And don't forget to like and subscribe and check out our blog at woodyanmarie.com. See you soon.